When I saw the picture on Instagram, I didn't cry. I just stared at it. That perfect family photo. My family, smiling under the glowing Eiffel Tower. The caption read, "So proud of our girl. You deserve the world." And under it, my mother's comment, written with the same warmth I'd once believed was meant for me. "She's the only one who makes us proud." It was my birthday, my 30th, the day I thought anyone might call. But instead, I watched my family celebrate someone else, 7 hours ahead in another world. I sat alone in my small apartment kitchen, the clock ticking too loud against the silence. My phone screen glowed with that photo, their faces lit with joy. The kind of joy I hadn't seen directed at me in years. My hand trembled as I scrolled through the comments, aunts, cousins, old neighbors, everyone congratulating my sister. Claire on her once-in-a-lifetime trip. No one noticed that it was also my day, the day their other daughter turned 30. The kettle whistled, and I turned it off before it screamed. The sound felt too much like the inside of my chest. I poured the hot water into an old chipped mug and stirred an instant coffee, watching the dark swirl fade to brown. I should have been used to it by now, being the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who doesn't need attention. That's what my mother always said. "Lena's fine," she'd tell people. "She's independent." But I learned young that independent was just another word for forgotten. The steam rose up, and I took a long sip, forcing it down, even though it burned. Because sometimes, pain is the only thing that reminds you you're still alive. I put the mug down and opened my laptop, muscle memory leading me to my bank account. I don't even know what I expected to see. Maybe just something that would make me feel in control. Numbers black and white, tidy, unemotional. And then I saw it. The last transaction, dated just 2 days ago. Wire transfer, Paris getaway package. From our joint savings account, the one I'd started years ago for family emergencies. The one Mom had convinced me to share because family helps family. My breath caught. I clicked it again, staring at the amount. $5,000, gone. That was the moment something in me went still. Not broken, not even angry, just still. Like the quiet before a storm that has yet to decide if it will destroy or cleanse. Outside my window, the city carried on. Cars honked, laughter drifted from a passing group of students. The smell of fried food wafted up from the diner below. Life was still happening, even when mine had stopped. I reached for my phone again, thumb hovering over my mother's number. But I didn't call. I just opened the bank tab again, clicked withdraw, and sat there as the screen confirmed the process. No, I wasn't being impulsive. I was finally claiming what was mine, or maybe reclaiming myself. The steam from my coffee had faded. The mug sat cold now, a ring of brown on the counter. And in that small, dim kitchen, I whispered to no one in particular. Maybe to the little girl who once waited by the window for her, mother to say she was proud. Happy birthday, Lena. Before that day, before the picture, before the withdrawal, my life was quiet. Predictable, even. I worked as a project coordinator at a small architectural firm downtown. My mornings began with the same hum of the bus engine, the smell of brewing coffee from the shop across the street, and the faint chatter of coworkers, scrolling through their phones. Before our daily meeting, I liked my work. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. Numbers, schedules, blueprints, things that made sense, things that stayed where you put them. Unlike people, my apartment sat on the 3rd floor of an old brick building that always smelled faintly of rain and laundry detergent. The walls were thin enough for me to hear my neighbors' late-night jazz records. And sometimes, when I couldn't sleep, I'd just lie there and listen, pretending the music was company. It wasn't a bad life, just a lonely one. My family lived 2 hours away, in the same suburban house where I grew up. The one with the white porch swing and my mother's rose bushes lining the yard. Claire still lived there too, even at 27. She worked part-time at a boutique and spent most of her days taking photos for her. Travel and lifestyle page. My mother adored her. Every phone call I had with Mom started and ended with Claire. Oh, Claire got another sponsorship. Claire's followers hit 10,000. Claire might go to Paris next year. Can you believe it? And then after a pause, she'd ask about me. Not really ask, more like fill the silence. You're still at that job, right? Are you eating well? I'd always say yes, because it was easier than explaining the emptiness of coming home to no one. easier than reminding her that I existed in a world that didn't sparkle for social media. Claire wasn't cruel, not exactly. She was just radiant, the kind of person who knew how to be seen. She had our father's charm and mom's looks. She could make people love her without trying, and me? I was the one behind the camera, making sure her light hit just right. When we were kids, I didn't mind. I thought that was love, giving quietly, supporting without asking. But somewhere along the line, I stopped being the big sister and became the backdrop. The last time I visited home, a month before my birthday, I remember standing in the kitchen as Mom and Claire fussed over a cake for Claire's content shoot. They had the lights set up, the props, even fake steam coming from a cup of cocoa. "Lena, can you move that plate a little to the left?" Claire had asked, not looking up from her phone. I moved it. Mom laughed when Claire struck a pose, head tilted, hair catching the sunlight. "You're a natural, sweetheart," she said. Then she looked at me, her tone soft but distant. "You should smile more, Lena. You're so serious all the time." I smiled then, because that's what she wanted, but it felt like wearing someone else's face. That night after dinner, I stayed behind to wash the dishes. I could hear them laughing in the living room. Mom, Claire, and Dad talking about the upcoming trip, about how Claire deserved to see the world. No one mentioned my birthday. It was just a number on the calendar, buried between their plans. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was grown, that love didn't have to look like celebration. But when I went home that evening, the silence that followed me through the door felt heavier than it ever had before. It started small, the kind of thing you almost ignore. A shift in tone, a message unanswered, a word that lands heavier than it should. About 2 weeks before my birthday, I called my mom. She didn't pick up. That wasn't unusual. She was always busy. But when she called back hours later, her voice was different. Distracted, breathless, like she was somewhere she didn't want me to know about. "Oh, sorry, honey, things have been crazy here," she said. "Everything okay?" I asked. Yes, of course." A pause, then a light laugh. "Claire's just had a lot of opportunities come up lately. You know, she's been working so hard." There it was again, that tone soft and proud, reserved only for my sister. I smiled into the phone, though she couldn't see it. "That's great. Tell her congrats from me." "I will," she said quickly. "Anyway, how's work?" That's how it always went. Claire first, me second. And every time I told myself not to mind. But that week something felt off. Claire's social media had gone unusually quiet. No posts, no stories, no outfit of the day videos. I knew her habits. She posted like it was her oxygen. So when she went silent, I noticed. Then, 3 days before my birthday, Mom texted, "Can't visit this weekend, sweetheart." Something came up. "We'll celebrate soon, promise." Something came up. 3 simple words, but I could feel the lie pulsing under them. I typed back, "That's okay, Mom, love you," and deleted the other message I'd written, the one that said, "You forgot, didn't you?" The next evening I called Dad, hoping maybe he'd slip up and tell me what was going on. He sounded tired, the way he always did after long shifts at the factory. "Oh, hey, kiddo," he said, clearing his throat. "How are you?" "I'm good," I said. "You guys doing anything special this weekend?" A silence. Then, not really. "You know your mom, she's got something planned with your sister, I think. Some photo shoot thing." He hesitated, like he realized he'd said too much. "Anyway, how's the city life treating you?" "Fine," I said, though something in my chest twisted. "All right, sweetheart. Talk soon, okay?" When we hung up, I sat there staring at the wall. The city lights from outside flickered across my apartment, washing the room in blue and gold. I told myself not to spiral, not to assume. Maybe it was just a family dinner. Maybe Claire's photo shoot needed both of them. But deep down, I already knew. I'd seen this pattern too many times. Secrets wrapped in excuses, hidden behind smiles. The next morning, I found the real clue. I woke up early, scrolled through my phone, and there it was, a tagged story from one of Claire's friends. It was a shot of an airport lounge, champagne glasses, and Claire in the corner of the frame, her blonde hair tucked under a travel hat. The caption said, "Paris, here we come." My heart dropped into my stomach. Not because she was going. She could go anywhere she wanted. But because no one had told me. Because I could already imagine my mom there beside her, holding her hand, smiling for pictures, posting captions about our proudest girl. And I thought of my own weekend. A quiet birthday, a single candle, maybe a slice of cake from the corner bakery. That was when I knew something had shifted. Not just in them, but in me. For the first time, I didn't just feel forgotten. I felt erased. I remember the exact moment it sank in. The betrayal wasn't loud. It didn't come crashing in like thunder. It arrived quietly, like a knife wrapped in silk. My phone buzzed again that morning. A notification from Instagram. Claire Wanders has posted a new photo. I tapped it without thinking. There she was, standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, wind lifting her hair just so, sunlight kissing her face. My mother and father beside her, arms wrapped tight around her shoulders, smiling like they'd never known a bad day in their lives. The caption read, "Dreams do come true. Couldn't have done it without my amazing family. Paris with mom and dad. Best surprise ever." I stared at it for a long time. The screen dimmed, then lit again when I touched it, as if asking if I was sure I wanted to keep looking. And then I saw it, the comment from my mother. "You deserve it, sweetheart. You're the only one who makes us proud." I don't know how long I sat there. My coffee went cold. The morning light stretched across the counter. And still I couldn't look away. 30 years old, and still invisible. I scrolled through the comments, one after another. "Beautiful family. So happy for you, Claire. Your parents must be so proud." No one asked about me. No one even remembered I existed. I laughed then, a small, strange sound that didn't feel like it came from me. It caught in my throat, turning sharp. My hands moved before my mind caught up, clicking open my bank account, searching through the transaction history. I had checked the balance earlier, but now I needed to see the details. And there it was. Wire transfer, Paris getaway package, $5,000. Initiated by Margaret H., my mother, from our joint family savings account. The account I'd started right after college, back when I still believed family meant something. When Mom said, "It'll be for emergencies. We'll all contribute." I had deposited nearly every bonus, every tax refund, every extra penny from overtime. Because I wanted to help, because I thought I was helping us. But it wasn't us, it was them. I clicked through the details, eyes burning. Every line told a story. The hotel reservation, the travel insurance, even a boutique receipt, all funded by the same account. They'd used my money, the money I'd saved, thinking it was for something important, a surgery, a house repair, maybe even Dad's retirement, and they'd spent it to celebrate her. I don't remember standing up, but suddenly I was pacing, barefoot on the cold tile floor. My heart was pounding, my breath shallow. Then came the texts. At first, I thought maybe it was an apology. Maybe they'd realized. Maybe they'd remember my birthday. But it was from Claire. "Hey sis, hope you're good. Paris is amazing. Mom and Dad surprised me. You have to come here one day. You'd love it." I stared at it until the words blurred. No mention of my birthday. No thank you. No awareness that the money came from me. Just bright emojis and sunshine. I typed back, "Looks like a dream. Happy for you." I erased what I wanted to say, that I'd seen the bank transfer, that it was my money, that I'd spent the morning realizing my family's love had a price tag. Instead, I put the phone down. The room felt too small, too quiet. The hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of a siren, the creak of the ceiling, every sound seemed amplified. My throat tightened. I thought about calling Mom, but I already knew how that would go. She'd tell me not to overreact. She'd remind me how much Claire had worked for her dreams. She'd say, "We'll make it up to you next year." Next year. Always next year. So I didn't call. I sat back down, opened the laptop again, and moved my cursor to that familiar button, withdraw. It wasn't revenge. It was reclaiming what was mine, what I'd given without question, without boundaries. I typed in the full amount remaining, confirmed my ID. The loading bar filled slowly, one soft blue pixel at a time, until it read, "Transaction complete." Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I packed a bag. Not to run away, not yet, but to move, to act. Because if my family could build a life around forgetting me, then maybe it was time I built one that didn't depend on being remembered. I zipped up the suitcase, looked around my little apartment, and whispered, not in anger, but in clarity, "They made their choice. Now I'll make mine." I didn't sleep that night. The city outside my window pulsed with its usual rhythm. Distant car horns, the hum of streetlights, the sound of laughter spilling from the bar below. But in my apartment, everything was still. Too still. I sat on the floor beside my suitcase, staring at the withdrawal confirmation on my laptop. My name, my account, my money, finally back in my hands. And yet, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like standing in the wreckage of something you once believed in. I'd always thought family was supposed to be a kind of home, the place you return to when the world is too much. But that night I realized, sometimes the world is kinder than home. I didn't know where I was going yet, but I knew I couldn't stay in that quiet apartment waiting for a happy birthday text that wasn't coming. So I did what I do best. I made a plan. First thing in the morning, I called my bank. Calm, professional, polite. I asked them to close the joint account permanently. The woman on the line hesitated. "Are you sure, Ms. Harris? It's a shared account." "Yes," I said softly. "I'm sure." By the time I hung up, the account was closed. A small act, but it felt like the first deep breath after years of holding one in. Next, I opened a new account under my name alone. I transferred every remaining cent. Watching that balance update felt like reclaiming not just money, but dignity. And then I took the day off work. I called my boss, told him I wasn't feeling well. It wasn't a lie. My body felt heavy, my chest tight. But instead of crawling back into bed, I showered, dressed, and stepped outside. The air was cool and clean after last night's rain. The smell of wet pavement mixed with coffee from the corner cafe. For the first time in months, I felt awake, not happy, not healed, but awake. I walked with no destination, just letting the city guide me. Past the bookstore I used to love, past the little park where old men played chess and children ran barefoot through the grass. Somewhere along the way, I stopped at a travel agency. The woman at the counter smiled at me. "Where to?" I paused. Paris crossed my mind for a split second, but I pushed it aside. That wasn't my dream. That was theirs. "Anywhere quiet," I said. "Somewhere near water." She typed quickly. "How about Nova Scotia? Off-season, peaceful, beautiful coastlines." I nodded. "Perfect." I booked a week, just 1 week, to breathe, to think. As I walked home, I felt a small weight lift. Not gone, but lighter. But peace never comes without interruption. My phone buzzed that afternoon, a video call from Mom. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. But something in me needed to face her, not for closure, but for clarity. I answered. Her face filled the screen, bright and sun-kissed. "Lena, there you are. We were just talking about you." I didn't say anything. I just watched her. Behind her, I could see the hotel balcony, the pale blue Paris sky. Claire's laughter echoed somewhere off camera. "You saw the photos, didn't you?" she said finally, her tone light but cautious. "I did." She smiled nervously. "It was a surprise trip for your sister. You know how hard she's been working." "With my money," I said. The smile faltered. "What?" "The Paris trip. The hotel, the flights, all paid from the family savings account, the one I funded." Her lips parted, searching for words. "Lena, it's not like that. It was meant for all of us." "Then why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "Why didn't you invite me?" She went quiet. The kind of quiet that isn't silence. It's guilt trying to disguise itself as reason. Finally, she sighed. "You wouldn't have enjoyed it. You've always been different. You like quiet things. Claire's the adventurous one." There it was. The truth. Simple, sharp. "She's the one who makes you proud," I said, echoing her comment. Mom's eyes flickered. "Don't twist my words." I didn't twist them. "You wrote them." Her hand trembled slightly as she tucked her hair behind her ear. "Lena, you've always been so sensitive. We just wanted to do something special for Claire before her brand deals start picking up. You're doing fine. You don't need us to fuss over you." I laughed softly, shaking my head. "That's the thing, Mom. You've mistaken my silence for strength. My independence for not needing love. Lena," I cut her off gently. "Don't worry. I'm not angry anymore. Just done." And before she could reply, I ended the call. For a moment, I stared at my reflection in the black screen, my face calm, my eyes steady. Then I opened my email and sent a notice to HR. "I'll be taking my remaining vacation days effective immediately." The next morning, I boarded a train headed north. As the city disappeared behind me, I watched the gray skyline melt into fields and fog. My chest still ached. But it was a different kind of ache. Not the weight of being unwanted, but the stretch of something new. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running toward their approval. I was walking toward myself. The train moved like a slow heartbeat, steady, rhythmic, carrying me farther from the noise that had shaped my life. I spent the first 2 days in Nova Scotia doing nothing but walking. There was a trail. Behind the small seaside inn, where I stayed, it wound along cliffs where the wind whipped your hair and the ocean sounded like it was breathing. I watched gulls circle above, white against the endless gray sky, and thought about how quiet can sometimes feel like kindness. It had been years since I'd heard that kind of quiet. I turned off my phone the first day. The second day, I turned it back on. There were messages, dozens of them, from Mom mostly. "Lena, please call me. We need to talk. Why did you close the account? Your sister's upset. You've made a scene." And then one from Claire. "Wow, so you took all the money? Are you serious right now? You ruined everything." I almost laughed. The irony that they could spend my savings without a thought. But the moment I reclaimed it, I was the selfish one. I didn't reply. I didn't have to, because by then, the world had already started replying for me. Claire's followers had noticed something. They always do. The internet is quick to smell blood. A post appeared on a gossip page, one of those influencer rumor accounts. It read, "Word is, local influencer R. Claire Wanders, Paris trip was funded by her sister's savings without consent. Family drama brewing? I hadn't told anyone. But people talk. Small towns have long memories and faster tongues. Someone from back home must have mentioned the shared account. Or maybe my mother had vented to the wrong friend." Either way, the story spread. By the end of the week, Claire's comment section was full of whispers. "This trip feels different now. Not very proud behavior, huh? Imagine taking your sister's money and calling yourself self-made." I didn't celebrate it. I didn't gloat. But I did feel something shift. The balance of truth tipping. Finally, in my direction. A few days later, Mom called again. This time I answered. Her voice was tired. "Lena, the family's talking. Your aunt called me in tears. Why would you let this get out?" "I didn't let anything," I said. "I didn't say a word." "Well, someone did. Claire's losing followers. Her sponsors are pulling out." I closed my eyes, listening to the waves outside my window crash against the rocks. Maybe it's time she learned what integrity costs. "You're being cruel," she whispered. "No," I said softly. "Just honest." There was a long silence. Then her voice cracked. The first crack I'd ever heard in it. "I never meant to hurt you, Lena." "I know," I said. "You just never meant to see me either." She didn't respond. When we hung up, I didn't feel triumphant, just sad. Sad for all the years I'd spent trying to earn a love that came with conditions. The next morning, I went into town for breakfast. A small cafe with fogged-up windows and the smell of cinnamon in the air. I ordered pancakes and coffee, and for once, I didn't check my phone. Halfway through the meal, an email came in. From my dad. "Hey, sweetheart. I heard what happened. I just want to say, I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner. I should have stood up for you." He went on to explain that he'd known about the Paris trip. But Mom insisted it was for the family's image. He'd tried to speak up, but she'd shut him down. She said it wasn't a big deal, that you wouldn't care. He ended the email with one line that broke me a little. "You've always been the strong one, Lena. But maybe we took that as permission to forget you needed love too." I didn't reply right away. I just let the words settle like dust in sunlight. By the end of that week, Claire posted an apology video, her voice trembling, her eyes red. She didn't mention me by name, but she didn't have to. "I made mistakes," she said. "I took help for granted, and I hurt someone who didn't deserve it." The comments were divided, some forgiving, some cruel. But that wasn't my concern anymore. I'd spent too long carrying guilt that wasn't mine to hold. When I turned off my phone again, I looked out at the ocean and let the wind sting my face. For the first time, I didn't feel forgotten. I felt free. Mom didn't call again after that, not for a while. And that silence, it didn't hurt the way it used to. It just felt like space. Space. I finally had the right to fill with something of my own choosing. It's strange how peace doesn't arrive like a sunrise. It creeps in quietly. a little light slipping through the cracks of what once hurt you. By the time I came back from Nova Scotia, I wasn't the same woman who'd left. I didn't return angry or broken. I returned clear. The apartment felt different when I walked in. Maybe it was the salt still lingering in my hair, or the calm still humming beneath my skin. Or maybe it was because I finally walked through that door knowing I wasn't waiting for anyone's approval anymore. I unpacked slowly, folding my clothes with care. The suitcase that had once been, filled with escape, now felt like a symbol of something else. Movement, choice. When I looked around my little kitchen, the same chipped mug on the counter, the same crooked picture frame above the sink, I didn't see emptiness this time. I saw possibility. I made myself coffee, fresh, strong. The smell filled the air, grounding me in that small but sacred moment. I sat at the table, opened my laptop, and started writing. Not emails, not reports, something else. I began with one line. When your family forgets your birthday, but remembers your sister's dreams, it changes you. I didn't know what I was writing at first, maybe a letter, maybe a story. But as the words poured out, I realized it was a kind of confession, a way to let go without needing an apology. It took me weeks to finish it, and when I did, I submitted it to an online magazine I'd followed for years, one that published stories about family, forgiveness, and finding yourself after loss. I didn't expect a reply, but 2 weeks later one came. We'd love to publish your story, Lena. It's raw, beautiful, and deeply human. I cried, not because of the acceptance, but because for once my voice mattered. My story mattered. And when it was published, messages started coming in from strangers, women and men who'd lived the same silence, who'd been the invisible child, the forgotten sibling. They wrote, "Thank you for saying what we never could." That was when I realized I hadn't been invisible. I'd just been standing in the wrong light. A month later, Dad visited me, alone. He brought a small box of pastries from my favorite bakery and a shy smile that made him look years younger. "I wanted to see you," he said simply. We sat in my kitchen sipping coffee, the quiet between us not awkward, just full. He told me that things at home had been tense, that Mom had finally admitted she'd been unfair, that Claire had stepped back from her online life, saying she needed to find what was real again. "I don't know if she'll ever really understand," he said, "but I think she's trying." I nodded. That's all any of us can do. Before he left, he reached across the table and took my hand. "Happy belated birthday, sweetheart," he said softly. "I'm proud of you." And this time I believed him. After he left, I didn't cry. I just stood by the window, watching the city lights shimmer like tiny promises. I thought about how, for so long, I'd wanted to hear those words from my mother. But maybe I'd been asking the wrong person to see me. Sometimes the healing doesn't come from the people who hurt you. It comes from you deciding you deserve peace anyway. Months passed. The story kept spreading, not viral, but steady. Enough to build a small audience that wanted to hear more. So I kept writing about forgiveness, about boundaries, about the quiet power of walking away. And one morning, as sunlight spilled across my desk, I received a letter in the mail, handwritten, shaky but familiar. It was from Mom. "Lena, I've been reading your stories. You have a gift. I didn't know how much I'd hurt you, or how blind I'd been to what you gave. I thought love meant celebrating the brightest light, but now I see it can also mean standing beside the quiet ones who keep everyone else shining. I hope one day you'll let me try again. Love, Mom." I didn't respond right away. I just folded the letter neatly and placed it in my drawer. Forgiveness, I've learned, isn't about forgetting. It's about refusing to let pain become your home. That night, I walked to the rooftop of my building. The air was cool, the city below alive with noise and laughter. I looked up at the sky, the same one that hung over Paris, over Claire, over all of us, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Gratitude. For the heartbreak that pushed me to stand alone, for the silence that taught me to listen to myself, and for the 30-year-old woman who finally stopped waiting for love. That came with conditions. Because in the end, maybe that's the real gift, not the trip. Not the apology, but the freedom to write your own story. You know, sometimes I still think about that photo, the one under the Eiffel Tower. For a long time it haunted me. It felt like proof that I wasn't enough, That no matter what I did, I'd always be the afterthought in my own family's story. But now, when I see it, I don't feel that sting anymore. I just see 3 people smiling for a camera. People who were doing the best they could with what they understood about love. And maybe that's what growing up really is. Realizing that not every wound deserves a war. Some just need distance and time. I won't lie to you. Forgiveness didn't come easily. It never does when you've spent your whole life earning what should have been freely given. But one day I woke up and realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was tired. And peace. Peace felt like the only thing worth keeping. I don't know if my mother and I will ever go back to what we were. But I do know this. I can love her from afar and still love myself up close. And maybe that's the lesson I had to learn the hard way. You can't force someone to see your worth, but you can stop hiding from it yourself. So if you're listening to this, and you've ever felt invisible, forgotten, overshadowed, left behind, I want you to know something. You are not a background character. You are the story. Your light doesn't have to compete with anyone else's to be real. And when the people who should have seen you don't, build a life so full, so honest that you can finally see yourself. Because the moment I stopped waiting for them to say, "I'm proud of you," I finally heard my own voice whisper back, "I am." Would you have done what I did? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to follow for more stories like this one. Because sometimes the quietest voices are the ones that need to be heard the most.